Hi, folks. It's nearly midnight. About 6 minutes to midnight now, on the 15th of June, 2020. There's another thing that's just come to mind that I figured, yeah, should do a video about this. It's an interesting point. Power and authority. Yeah, it's an interesting subject. It certainly is a case that if you seek power and you want to go for power, you have to be a bit of a psychopath to not be destroyed by what you yourself are seeking. Because normally, with power comes responsibility, which is why you see with a lot of leaders, they fall apart big time when they suddenly have all that power. Certainly in the UK, you see Boris Johnson struggling. Now, really struggling. You see the former leader, Theresa May, struggled. She was very, very weak, indecisive, didn't really have a clue what to do. Just not coping at all with the situation. And that's common, really is common for people that they seek that position of power and authority, and they get it, and all of a sudden they have all that responsibility and they can't cope because it's just too much. Now, that can be the case in a small business. It doesn't need to happen with running a country. With a small business or a small church, that can be the case. If you desire power but you're not meant to have it, because that's the point. There are some people who are brilliant at dealing with it. Really good. I mean, as I say, psychopaths like Donald Trump, brilliant at it because he doesn't let anything touch him. He doesn't care that any of his policies are hurting people. He couldn't care less. He just really couldn't care less. He tries to paint the picture all the time that he is a fantastic leader, that any harm that comes to the people is down to his predecessor or down to his opponents blocking him. Nothing to do with him in any way, shape, or form. He's like Teflon. And the reason he's like Teflon is not because he's clever, it's because he doesn't care. He lies through his teeth. Now, most people know he's lying through his teeth, but he doesn't care. So he can be a leader, and it's not going to destroy him because he doesn't seem to have a soul to destroy. Now, obviously, he does have a soul, but his soul at the moment is so incredibly dark. So the Dark Lord has basically got him from Star Wars or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that type. Then you have the people where God has appointed them to positions of power. Now, they will cope because God puts the right people around them to take pressure off them. So even though they are responsible, God puts the right people around them to ease the burden, so they can therefore cope with the burden. Now, that can be in a business or a church. So if God has appointed you to power or pushed you into power, but then if you're not seeking it, but God seeks it for you or seeks you for it, then he will make sure that you're able to cope, and you will. You don't need to be a psychopath for that, because God will enable you through people that he puts around you. So there are two ways. Other than that, there really isn't a way. I mean, if you can delegate. But the problem is, if you desire power, generally speaking, you're not really desiring power for other people, to give that power away to other people. Most people desire, most people desiring power are desiring it for their own gratification and for their own glory. So there are people, yes, of course. There will be the occasional saint who will desire power so that he can benefit people and so that he can delegate that power and bless the community. And that happens occasionally. Very, very occasionally that will happen, yes. But not normally. In most cases, people desire power and they have to choose family or power. And that's why it is a case where anyone who's wise won't go into those powerful positions, not in the big companies employment-wise. They would go nowhere near it. That's why all these people complaining that there aren't many women at the top don't understand that the women have chosen family over power. Because to have that power, you have to spend so much time working at balancing and keeping that power that you don't really even see your family anymore. You might see your wife for a couple of hours a week. That's about it. Because you're constantly on your phone, you're constantly on your computer. Because you're trying to do this balancing act all the time. Trying not to lose what you got. And you will lose it. Because generally speaking, to the people that desire power, it's the devil who puts that in their head. The devil pretty much wants to destroy you. He doesn't want to bless you, he wants to destroy you. So he wants you to desire something that is going to take everything else away from you. And then once everything else has been taken, you've lost your wife, you've lost your children, you've lost your home, and eventually you're going to lose your business. That's going to go. Because that thing you've been trying to juggle, something's going to happen, you're going to slip and you're going to drop everything. You imagine a juggler who's got 5 or 6 balls in the air, and they've got to keep those balls in the air for 20 years. You think it's likely that they're not going to drop those balls once? Even a top juggler. Is it likely that they're going to keep those balls up in the air for 20 years without dropping them once? No. And as soon as you drop the balls, boom, it's gone. See, if you're like Donald Trump or people like that, you're not juggling because you don't care. You're not trying to keep people happy. You've got the power, you can get rid of those people and get some new people in. You don't care about that. So you're not trying to juggle that. You don't care even about profit because you can declare yourself bankrupt and you can still take all the money away from it. You just don't have to pay the people you're supposed to pay, which is what Trump did on numerous occasions. As an excuse of not underpay people. He paid people to do jobs, not to build his hotels, and then, I'm bankrupt. Sorry, I can't pay you. And then he goes and gets another firm to build another hotel. Or another string of hotels, then one later he's bankrupt again. Because he has no qualms about doing that to people at all. Now, many would say, in a way, that's not a bad leader to have in a country because, he can say to other countries, he can treat those other countries the way he's treated, business people he's been involved with in the past. He can screw them over, and that can be beneficial to America. But the problem is he's not exactly done that. He's screwed over America by trying to screw over the other countries. Because the problem is, even if he's trying to say, okay, he had this thing a while back talking about lobster. And Sarah Cooper did a video on it where she sort of plays him. And Trump was saying something in the area of the European Union are damaging the lobster trade for America. So he's thinking about putting tariffs on all the cars and stuff from Europe. But the thing of it is that that's part of the American people. They buy this stuff. And also, if you want to sell to Europe, if you're taxing their people heavily, they're going to tax your people heavily, which is going to affect your people and the businesses in America. It's going to mean that they make a lot less profit. And for them to actually go and buy a European car, they're going to have to spend a lot more to do that. So it's a ridiculous situation. But it's because he doesn't care. He doesn't care what impact anything he says has, or anything he does has. He couldn't care less about that in any way, shape, or form. That's not him. Yeah, that's not him as a person. So, yeah. But I say with most people, they do care. They do care what other people think of them. And so that's why they're trying to juggle these 5 balls for 20 odd years. And it destroys them. So power and authority? No. I don't want that. I don't want the responsibility that comes with it. I really, really don't. To be responsible, certainly in a church, to be responsible for every member in that church and what happens with their lives and where they go and where they choose to go and whether they end up serving God or not. No. That's not a responsibility I desire. Partly because of the fact that you can't make people do things they don't want to do. However, if God says he wants me doing that, well then I'll be doing that. Okay, then I guess I'll be doing that then, won't I? But that's up to God to decide that, not me. It's up to him to push me in that direction because I'm not going to try to go in that direction. It's not me, it's not who I want to be. I say the responsibility in there is a big one. And I know people who have been involved with church. I know how much it's hurt them. Because some people have even had the right ideas or the right-ish ideas. And they just haven't been able to get anything done. But of course you haven't. If they're not ready, people in the church, or if you're not ready, then it ain't going to work. You pretty much both have to be ready at the same time. And only God can do that. So when God moves you, then you have to go. You have to go where God moves you to. But that can be a situation where it's difficult. You trying to go in your own strength because you're getting impatient. Or because you think that somehow you may be the answer to their problems. Really? You reckon that? Based on what exactly? And then you find out in time that no, you weren't the answer. They weren't the answer for you, and you weren't the answer for them. Because it wasn't God designed. It was you designed, or it was them designed, because it's often a case where people get asked to lead the church. And they pray about it, but because they haven't learnt to listen to God, they just learnt to tell God what they want. That they sort of speak to God. God answers, but they don't hear because their mind is so busy with all the stuff they just don't hear what God's saying. And so they go for it. They think, well, God must want it because there's no clear sign to say He doesn't. What sort of clear sign were you really wanting or expecting, really? So, yeah, I say it's a tricky situation that people find themselves in. You get asked to do it, you think God might be behind it, that God might want you to do it, and then a year or two down the line, you're in it, and you wish you hadn't went. You really, really, really wish you weren't. You wish you could go back that few years and tell yourself, this isn't God, don't go in it. Yeah. But rather than tell the people at church, I'm sorry, this isn't God. God doesn't want me here. Clearly, because it's not working. If God wanted me here, there'd be some evidence of that already, but there isn't. So therefore, we have to pull the plug now rather than allow it to get any worse. Instead of doing that, they sort of dig in and sort of hope that it's going to improve. They try a few new things to try and sort of make things happen, but you can't do that. You can't make something happen if it's not going to happen. A few new initiatives or whatever. Yeah, not going to work. But that's it. So they end up being people pleasers, or they leave. Because to stay, you've got to be a people pleaser. You've got to please the people, because they're the ones who decide you stay. And of course, pride is a factor. You don't really want to leave because you're prideful. So yeah, it is what it is. It's a difficult, tricky situation. But I would certainly say to people, unless you desire the stresses and strains, it's probably best not to go for power and authority. Leave that to someone else. Unless God is pushing you to it. Take care of your mental state and stay away from anything that's going to be unnatural to what is best for you. So there you go. That'll do for now. That was just a little thing that God was speaking to me about. So I thought, that's a good point. I will share that. So there you go. I've shared it. So you take care. God bless. And I will speak to you soon. Bye bye.